Hi everyone! If you're new here, my name is Bianca and I give advice on everything health and fitness, so welcome to my channel. Today we are talking about the 5 most common mistakes that people make when they start their weight loss journey. Before we dive in, I just want to say that I also have an Instagram account where I post a lot more often. I post everything from workouts to physical therapy advice to just overall health and fitness tips. So I'm going to leave that right here if you want to follow along and get more regular content. Alright, so let's get into the 5 biggest mistakes people make when they start their fitness journey. Number 1 mistake would have to be overeating healthy foods. Healthy doesn't necessarily mean that you can eat as much of something as you want and still lose weight. It's important to remember that in order to lose fat, you have to be in a caloric deficit, which means that in your day or in your week, you're burning more calories than what you are consuming. When I say you're burning more calories, I don't mean simply the calories that you're exercising. You don't have to be exercising for calories worth of 2,000 plus. What that means is simply that you have to, when you include your metabolism, the calories that your body burns for daily functions such as digesting and other things, that overall has to be higher than the amount that you're consuming every day. So if you're overeating healthy foods, and the most common healthy foods that people overeat are nuts and nut butter, while those are healthy, they are also very high in fat. And most people's diets don't require a very, very large amount of fat. Fat is usually supposed to be making up 20 to 25% of your calories for the day. So overeating things like that, or another good example is avocados. People love avocados, and yes, they're healthy, but they are pure fat. So it's important to remember that while you definitely can have some of those foods, overeating healthy foods is just as detrimental to your fat loss as overeating other unhealthier foods. Number 2 would have to be restricting your calories too much, too quickly. So what that will do is that our bodies are incredibly good at adapting. Our bodies always want to be in something called homeostasis, which means that they want to have everything regulated and neutral. Our body doesn't like crazy ups and downs. So if you go from what you used to eat to all of a sudden a very drastic reduction in calories, your body is over time going to adapt to that, meaning that it's going to lower its own metabolism to make sure that it can survive on that low amount of calories. So what that means is that on a day-to-day basis, when your body's doing its own daily activities, it's going to be burning less calories than it used to, which means that it's going to make it harder for you to get in that caloric deficit that we talked about earlier. Another thing that that's going to cause is low energy levels. So if you have low energy, that's going to make it harder to get good workouts in, which is also in turn going to affect your mood and how you feel. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing and you're grumpy and hangry, as we all get sometimes, it's going to be so much harder to make that sustainable and to continue to maintain that caloric deficit for as long as you need to lose the amount of fat that you wanted to lose. And lastly, if you are under eating by a lot, odds are that that's going to lead to binging at some point. You're going to be hungry, your cravings are going to be through the roof, and that's going to lead to overeating and binging, which is only going to bring you in a very unhealthy cycle. It's going to create a very unhealthy relationship with food, and that is hard to come back from. I've been there. I used to be the person that restricted a lot and then binged every once in a while in secret, and it's really hard to then work your mentality out of that pattern. So please don't restrict too much. 12, 13, 1400, even 1500 calories for most people is way too little. So make sure that if you are going to be reducing your calories, you're doing it in a safe and effective way. And if you need help to figure out what is a good caloric deficit for you, then please go ahead and get that help. Don't play around with it too much on your own if you don't know how to do it, because you might end up doing more damage than good. Alright, mistake number 3 that people tend to make a lot is neglecting resistance training. People think that in order to burn more calories and be in that caloric deficit, they need to be doing hours of cardio, hours of walking, jogging, cycling, whatever it may be. And while I do recommend doing some cardio if fat loss is your goal, it is also crucial to continue or to start doing resistance training if you've never done it before. After you do a resistance training session where you've really tired and worked your muscle and you've caused micro tears in your muscle, your body has to work afterwards to recover from that and to heal those muscles and build them back up. And what that actually does is that in the 24 hours after your resistance training session, your body's actually going to continue to burn calories at a slightly higher rate in order to do that recovery process. That's something that doesn't happen with just cardio because you're not damaging the muscles as much as you would with resistance training. So that right there is already one way that you can up the amount of calories that you're burning every week just by throwing in a few resistance training sessions. Another thing with resistance training is that when you do start building up that muscle, what that's actually going to do is boost your metabolism, which is amazing because, like I mentioned before, that means that at rest, just as you're doing your day-to-day tasks, your body's going to be burning slightly more calories because it has all that muscle to carry around, and muscle requires more energy than fat just for daily activities. Mistake number 4 is using methods that are just simply not sustainable. Any of those crazy diets or really insane challenges where it's like, you know what, just do this really hard thing and really difficult restricting thing for 30 days, 60 days, however long it might be, it's not sustainable. Number 1, you're not actually building habits that you can maintain long term. Number 2, like I mentioned before, you might actually be hurting your metabolism if you're restricting too much. Number 3, if you're taking away things that you genuinely love and that you know for a fact you wouldn't be able to go your entire life without, well then that's also going to create that binging pattern, and it might put that in your mind as a bad food. So every time you're going to have it in the future, you might end up regretting it and overthinking it. And then once again, having a healthy relationship with food is so key to building a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. Food is not the enemy. We all need food to nourish and fuel our bodies. So learning what the best foods are for that, learning how your body adapts to different types of foods, and learning how your body reacts when you're actually nourishing it and fueling it properly is so important. And that is why I will never recommend any diets that are too intense or anything that you know you wouldn't be able to sustain. If you love carbs, don't do keto. Because then what? You're going to do it for 2 months and then have to think about a whole nother way of being able to keep the fat that you just burned to make sure that it stays off. So I always recommend taking small steps and building up onto that, and always do things that you know you would be able to maintain for a long time. And we are already at mistake number 5, which is not eating enough protein. Protein is amazing when you want to lose fat because, number 1, protein is going to make you full for longer. Protein actually requires more energy to be digested by your digestive system, so it's going to take longer for that to be burned, so you're not going to be hungry as quickly, and it also increases the amount of calories that your body burns as it's digesting it. Obviously, as I'm saying that, it is very, very small amount of extra calories that your body uses, but still there are so many benefits to making sure that you get all that protein that you need. Another thing about making sure that you have enough protein is that if you're in a caloric deficit, which you should be if you're trying to lose fat, most of the time with that comes also a little bit of loss of muscle. But if you maintain your protein high enough, you're going to be losing less muscle mass than if you are also cutting down protein. So when you are trying to lose fat and you are reducing your calories, make sure that you maintain your protein at the same level. That way you're going to be minimizing the amount of protein loss that will come with the fat loss. That is it for today's short and sweet video. I hope you enjoyed those tips. I hope that they will be helpful to you. And if you ever have more questions or you want some help with anything that I mentioned today, you can leave me a question in the comments. I will make sure to answer back. Or if you want to do it in a more private, personal way, just send me a message on Instagram and I will make sure to respond. So that is it, and I will see you next time.